One Saturday when I was around 13, my uncle came around with his girlfriend and my 2 younger cousins. Our other 2 cousins were staying at the flat for the weekend, and a further younger female cousin had asked Mom if she could stay. This was a regular occurrence for us kids. The weekends and school holidays were free-for-alls, a constant stream of kids staying at one place or another, making makeshift beds with beanbags and floor cushions, or just crashing out on the floor with sleeping bags. Apart from my 5 cousins and I, my friend Jay was there. He too was at our flat every weekend, and his parents knew he would be okay. So, we all hung out together, had a sandwich and drink, and played on the Sega. Then Mom and my uncle's partner said we should all go for a walk. Everyone thought it was a great idea, so the 10 of us set out. The 3 adults decided that we should go to Donkey Woods, which is a bit of green wildland owned by the council, much like Heathland. As kids, we used to go over a lot in the spring, summer, and autumn on our own or with family. It was reasonably safe and kid-friendly, but still, it felt wild enough to make you feel adventurous and not in West London. We all walked the half-mile down the road from the flats to Donkey Woods, where we walked along the river until we got further into the woods. Eventually, Mom, my uncle, and his partner all sat down to have a cigarette. So, us 7 kids went exploring. As I've mentioned before, we all knew Donkey Woods really well, and were totally at ease and comfortable over there. We weren't expecting anything unusual or creepy at all. For us, it was just another mid-August late Saturday afternoon, and we were just messing around. My cousin T, my friend Jay, and I were all talking when suddenly the other 4 kids came running up. They were all out of breath and looked a little rattled. The 4 of them told us that they had seen something weird in one of the small clearings. They wouldn't tell us what, though. They just told us that we had to see for ourselves. We all thought it was just a major wind-up, but when we got to the clearing, our mood changed quickly. Not to fear, more like a sense of unsettling apprehension. In the middle of the clearing were 3 small tents in a rough triangle. In the middle of the tents was a small, still smoldering fire. Around the edge of the clearing were several small dead birds. The whole scene was very unnatural. I felt a distinct drop in the temperature. It was most likely my imagination, but it was still quite evident. Now, the rough sleepers of the area did use Donkey Woods as a base, but not in that particular place of the woods. It was too close to the main road, and the homeless people avoided harassment and abuse from certain unpleasant individuals by going further into the woods to prevent any of that. The homeless people who lived over in Donkey Woods also didn't use tents. They would make shelters from pieces of wood and plastic sheeting. Donkey Woods is not a place where people go camping recreationally. We felt there was something very strange about the scene in this clearing. I told the 4 younger ones to go and get the adults. While they were gone, me, Jay, and T did not move. T, who was and still is as tough as nails, was completely colorless. You couldn't see her freckles at all. I didn't even move my wheelchair around the area as I normally would have done. I just kept saying, "What the fuck?" When the adults came back with the other kids, they were clearly unnerved by the odd scene as much as we were. It was soon agreed on by everyone that we should leave the clearing and Donkey Woods immediately. The most creepy part of this incident was the next morning. My uncle went to see my other uncle, and together they went over to Donkey Woods to look around more. They went to the clearing, but there was nothing there. Not even marks in the ground from the tent poles. There was no sign of the fire, and there were no dead birds. My parents had built their dream house in a new subdivision. They chose a lot that did not have any neighbors yet, so the history of the place was still unknown. I remember the first day we moved into the home, and I just felt something was off. Specifically, me and my sister's rooms. Our rooms were the corner rooms on the second floor. We shared a balcony. My parents had also built a small nook space next to the windows where it was long and wide enough for you to either sit or lay in. On our first night there, I fell asleep on my phone. I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor since there was no bed frame yet. I was a light sleeper, so despite being asleep, I felt like something was at my feet, as if someone was holding my ankles down. I was able to sleep through the night, but the feeling never went away even after a few days had passed. I convinced my sister to let me sleep with her in her room the following night. Her bed was positioned next to the wall. I moved my mattress next to her with my back facing the window. It was around 2 a.m. when I woke up. That feeling, the feeling of my ankles being held down, crept in again. I wanted to shake the feeling off, but I couldn't. I looked up and saw what seemed like a dark figure standing in front of the window. Alarm bells went off. Our rooms were on the second floor. There was no one else upstairs because my parents' room was downstairs. A few seconds later, I heard a tapping on the window, but I refused to look back. I tried to quietly wake up my sister, but she shifted, turning to the wall instead. I was too scared to get up. I inched closer to my sister and turned my back. I faked being asleep, but I still heard the taps. During the following nights, my cousins or friends or whoever would visit our house would report hearing a woman crying and the same tapping noise I heard. My parents often laughed or shrugged it off because they didn't believe in the paranormal. One day, while talking to the guard on duty on our way to the jogging path, my mom mentioned we were new in the area. The guard told my mom a story about the property our house was built on. There used to be a house there. A mom, her husband, and 3-year-old daughter had lived in the house. The house caught on fire. The mother attempted to save the daughter, but couldn't. In fact, her husband, and the little girl perished. I couldn't help but think if the tapping on the window and the sound of the woman crying was the same woman who died in the house. That night, after hearing the story, I tried to fall asleep, but all I could envision was the mom wailing in front of the window, banging on the glass. The noises slowly fading to taps, weakened cries. The fires consuming her and her family.